Hello folks, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I would be talking about how to read Excel files in Java using EasyExcel library and demonstrate its working. Talking about the agenda, I would be talking about EasyExcel library in Java that allows seamlessly reading Excel files. I would also demonstrate to use EasyExcel library using its sync and async methods and also show a test scenario of data provider where test data is supplied using Excel sheet in a web automation test using Selenium WebDriver with Java. What is EasyExcel? EasyExcel is an excellent Excel file handling library written in Java. Its easy to use APIs allows reading and writing Excel files seamlessly in Java. Using this library, large size Excel files can be read with minimum memory consumption, providing high performance. It is developed by Alibaba and supports both XLSX and .xls files. So first, let me take you to the Excel file that we would be using for the demo purpose. So this is the Excel file. It has it. The name of the file is Excel. The name of this Excel file is employee-data. It has two sheets: employee details and salary data. The employee details has multiple columns: name, employee number, age, email address, mobile number, and is valid. And there are plenty of rows, like almost more than 50 rows of data available. I have added this data just to show the performance. Maybe it's not that lengthy, but we would be able to like know about the difference between the sync and the async methods easily by using this set of data. The salary data sheet is added because the easy excel allows to read the data sheet wise as well. So we can, using the same sheet, we can read a different, using the same excel file, you can use a different sheet, name of the different sheet, and get its data as well. So it's not necessary like only one excel file needs to be added up for reading the data. You can read multiple sheet within the same excel file as well. So let me take you to the demonstration now. So the first thing is we need to create a project, and inside that project we need to add the Excel Easy Excel uh, dependency. Now let me show you the GitHub repository as well. So you can see it has around 33.3 thousand stars, and it is developed by Alibaba. This is the EasyExcel library. It's mostly into Chinese, but anyways, you can use Google Translate to translate this and then read all of the stuff. You can see it has mentioned details related to the performance. 16 million rows where is using 16 MB, read in 23 seconds. 75 million rows were read in 23 seconds. And this is the current version 4.0.3 and so on. So maybe you can just go ahead and check out. I will be putting up the link to this library in the video details descriptions as well. I have updated the same dependency as we just saw in the library in the easy excel. I have updated this dependency here, and rest other things I have updated like lombok as well, testng, and selenium WebDriver dependency, because you would be using these dependencies for the demonstration purpose. And there are some plugins as well, like the Maven compiler and Surefire to run the project easily through command line, as well as to run the project for to run the perform the test execution as well. As a best practice, I normally put up the dependency versions in the properties block, which is available here. So you can see the easy excel version in 4.0.3 and so on, and the lombok, test engine, selenium versions are also mentioned here. Now talking about the Excel file, the same Excel file I have updated in the resources folder here, employee-data that we just saw. This is the employee-data Excel file that we just saw, and this is the salary data files. The same Excel file is been exported to this SRC test resources folder here, as it is the best practice to update the files in the resources folder for further reading. Now, the first thing that we'll read is reading the file using async method. Now, there are multiple methods that are provided by the easy excel, but before we read the file, there are two steps that we need to take care of. First, we need to create an pojo. So the pojo that we need to create is for the excel columns, the same name, that whatever name you have for the columns, the pojo needs to have of the same column names, The same column names to be should be the name of the fields as well. So the name is a string. So we have added the name column. Now this Excel property is ideally the name of this column here, name. So if you want to create another word, like for example, uh, you need to have this field as first name. Maybe you can create it as first name, but to map this particular name field with the Excel column name, we need to use this Excel property. This Excel property annotation is also provided by the EasyExcel library itself. Okay. Then similarly, the employee name, age, email address, mobile number, and is valid. All of the column names are updated here. Now you see the column names are appearing here in the ascending format. That is just because due to my settings, I have updated the IntelliJ settings in such a way that all of the field names should appear in the ascending order, in order of their appearance, and using the alphabetical order. So that is the reason why I have updated the Excel property over the field names. Now, if you don't want to have this Excel property, you need to make sure that you type in the first field as the fields appear in the as the columns appear in the Excel file. Like for example, the first field should be the name here, employee name, age, email address, and so on. So if you write the values in the same order as the columns appear, then you can avoid using Excel property. But it's better and a best practice to use this Excel property because the mapping would appear correctly. Even in case if the order changes, there would be no problem. Otherwise, if the order changes in between, like for example, the integer age comes first and then here the first column is name. So in that case, in case the Excel property is not provided, then your name column value will be assigned to this age, which is not correct, and your test will start failing, or maybe the correct data will not appear. You will get some wrong data in the output. So this Excel property inside this value should be the name of the column here. So the Excel column age refers to this age here. Now one more thing, the data types here. Now this name is a string. So that is the reason I have provided it as a string. The employee number is a number. So I have given it as an integer. Age is also an integer. So I have, sorry, employee number is an integer. Employee number, you can see it here. Employee number is an integer. Age is an integer. Email address is a string. You can see the email address coming up as a string. Mobile number, I have taken it as a string because I just wanted to show a different thing. Like even in case of numbers, you can call it as a string. But the only change here is in the Excel file, you need to provide it using it as a string. The column should be a string. It should not be a number. Otherwise, this mapping will fail and it will not provide the correct output. This is valid is a boolean. That is the reason why it shows the value true or false. So I have provided it as a boolean here. Now, after creating the employee data POJO, you need to make sure you call the data at the rate data annotation. This annotation is provided by the Lombok dependency, and it helps in creating POJO or the getters and the setters ideally on runtime. So you don't have to write the boilerplate code for setting the getters and the setters, for writing the getters and the setters to get the values and set the values. After that, we just need to read the sheet. And how do you read the sheet? That Excel file, you need to create one listener, right? You need to create employee data listener. Now this employee data listener is another class that we need to create and implement the read listener from Excel, EasyExcel library, and it will consume the employee data POJO. So whatever POJO that you have created will be consumed by the read listener, which will help in reading and listening to that POJO and providing you the desired output with the values. Then we need to create one list of employee data as an array list. So this list is an interface. We are implementing the new array list uh, with this employee data. So it will ideally save all the data that is provided by this Excel file. This Excel file, whatever data that you see here, will be read using this employee data POJO, and the values will be stored in this employee data list. Now this to make this employee data list to work, we need to implement two methods from this read listener from the EasyExcel. Do after all analyzed, and invoke. So the first one is the invoke method. This method will actually help us in reading the excel file and providing up the desired values. So this invoke method, we need to pass on the parameter. The first parameter will be the pojo for the data that you want to read, and the next one is from the analysis context. This is a part of the EasyExcel library. And what we need to do is we need to call this list of employee data list, and then dot add employee data. This employee data is ideally the POJO, the values that will be name of the POJO values, the name of the class where the POJO is declared. We need to call that. So what it will do is when it starts reading, it will read the Excel file row by row and add those data in this list, which can be eventually further used for verifying the values or getting the values or printing the values or using it in for further use in the development project. After that, once all the file reading is complete, you need this particular method will be called do after all analyze. It also has a parameter analysis context that is a part of EasyExcel library. And here I'm just printing that finished reading the file, and this is the total record. So whatever records, for example, here if there are 55 records in this Excel file, the same site should appear in this employee data list as well. This will ensure that all the records have been read correctly, and this will act as a kind of a logger for me to know that the file has been read successfully. Okay, next, reading the file async. Now the first part that we need to do is we will be using a creating a new class read excel async, and inside that, using the main method, I have called the initialize this instantiated this employee data listener class. And after that, we need to call this easy excel class and the read method of that particular EasyExcel class, which has the parameters file name, the POJO of the Excel file, and then the listener. So this file name is ideally the name of the Excel file that I want to read. So this file is available in my resources folder. So that is the reason why I've defined it as a string file name. Path of this is a Java NIO library. System.get property user.directory. So it will eventually get this EasyExcel demo path, this project path, and then inside this project I want to go to src test resource, and that the easy employee hyphen data dot xlsx file, and then two strings. So this file name, whatever file name that I have, will get stored in this file name variable, which is eventually called here. So it will eventually read this employee data Excel file, and then this file needs to be converted to this employee data. Whatever data that I have in this file should be used using this employee data POJO class, and all of this data available after reading in employee data listener that we have just read using this invoke method. Okay, so this data will be available here. It will read this data, the sheet. So ideally, if I'm not giving the sheet name here, then it will read the first sheet by default and then do read. So this will read the data in the Excel file that I have just provided here with this particular POJO and then the listener. And if I want to get the values of a particular field in the output, then this is how I write the code, like employee data listener dot get employee data list dot get zero get employee address. Now let me decode this as well. This employee data listener dot get employee data list. Now you remember we have updated this at the rate getter annotation here, which is a part of Lombok dependency. So this getter automatically creates a getter method for this employee data list. So after reading this employee data list and adding all the values using this invoke method, the values will be in the values from the Excel file, that whatever values that you have read. For example, this John 100123 and so on, all these 55 rows, row by row values will be captured and stored in this employee data list, which will be eventually used using get employee data list and then get zero. So this get zero will get the first row. If you want to get the record for the fourth row, eventually it's an index, so and an array of index. So index starts with zero, so this is the first record with zero dot get email address, and for the first record get me the email address. So this email address is john@jobs.com. This should get printed, and then eventually I'm printing this email value here. So this is how the data will be read from the file, and the output will be given in the console. Now I have also printed some values to get the current current time in milliseconds before beginning the output, and then after before actually reading the file, and after actually reading the file, and then I have decided to get a total time by subtracting the end and the begin time, and then I have printing the total time. This is just done to make sure is there any difference between sync and async. To show the difference between the sync and the async methods, I have done this changes here. Now let me run this particular test and see. You can see every row getting whatever row record that we have available in this file is printed in the console here. You can see age 23, email address, employee number. The data appears in the same order as of the POJO. So the in POJO we have the age first, then email address, employee number is valid, and so on. And in the same fashion, the data appears as age 23, John, email address, employee number is valid, mobile number, and so on. And in the end, we should get the email that we wanted to print as well. So you can see here the email ID that we printed should be john@jobs.com, and you can see the same value has been printed here. And we can also see it took 352 milliseconds to read 55 records from the Excel file, which is a very good, is an excellent timing to read the Excel file, and that too in a very minimum code that we have written here. This easy Excel read file automatically prints the value in the output that you can see here. So ideally, it doesn't print anything, but this employee data listener, like you see here, I have already printed this employee data here, whatever POJO is available here. So that is the reason why it is printing everything in the console. If you do not want to get the data printed here, you just need to remove this system out print line. It will not print any record there. And eventually, whatever data, explicit data that you want to print, you can print those data like this, whatever you value want to get in the console. Now, reading another sheet. Like I said, in this particular Excel file, there are two sheets, employee details and salary data. So there is another sheet called salary data. Like if I want to read this sheet data, how do I proceed? So for that, we will have to create another POJO, and there are three columns here: employee number, designation, and amount. So the same columns, I have created one other POJO, and I've used Excel property to map the column names with the particular fields. And after that, I have not created any I have not created any listener here, as I want to read it in sync. So how do I do that? So first of all, the first part is I need to get the file name. It's very simple. Like you use path.of system.get property user directory, and this same sheet name employee data is the same line of code that we have used previously. And then we just need to list the salary data. We need to create a list of salary data list. It's an interface here, and then we will eventually point it to the EasyExcel.read method, where we'll read the file name and the head. So this head is ideally the POJO, the name of the POJO that we want to get converted, the data to get converted with, right? The salary data POJO. So this salary data class will be passed in here, and then the sheet name. So this sheet name, you should make sure you pass on the sheet name correctly, salary data here, and then call the method do read sync. So this will read the data in sync. It will not read the data in async. It will read the data in sync. Now there is one difference here. For reading the data in async, you need to create one listener and implement the read listener, pass on the POJO, and then implement the two methods, invoke and do after all analyze, and eventually use the same logic, like define a list, maybe an array list, and then read the data, add the data of that particular Excel file which you want to read, and eventually at the time of reading the data, you just need to call read file name and the POJO class, and then the listener, and then the sheet name, and then do read. So this method do read will eventually read your data in async. But if you want to read the data in sync, you just simply do not have to create any listeners. You just write the list, whatever list you want to declare, pass on the POJO there, and then EasyExcel.read method read method, you pass on the file name, the Excel file name. The head method should have a parameter for the POJO that you want to read, and then the name of the sheet, and then do read sync. Make sure you write do read sync for reading the file in sync. And then after that, I wanted to print everything. Like I have not created any POJO here, so there is no chance of like writing the data or on runtime. So that is the reason I have just created one for loop. What I have done is for salary data list, whatever data is available in this salary data list variable, each data should be updated and printed on the console. And then I'm also printed one. I want to, if I want to get the amount from the first value, like 1500.70, what is the amount that is in the first row, I have to give the value like this: salary data list dot get zero and get amount. So if I want to get the value of the this row, fifth row, so have to do is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have to give it as 4, 0, 1, 2, 3. I have to give the value as 3. It will print the value of the fourth row, right? If I want to get the value of the fifth row, I have to give the value as, instead of 0, it will be 4. Because index starts with 0, you need to make sure you pass on the correct values here. Now let me run it and see the output. Now you can see all of the salary data value that are available in the salary data Excel sheet got printed here with the same fashion that it got printed previously in the order of the POJO fields that were declared. And in the end, we can see 1500.76, the value that is available in the first line, getting correctly printed. Now let me print it as 4. So 875 should be printed here. It's the fifth column, and accordingly from the index point of view, it is the fourth. So 875 should get printed here. Let me rerun it again quickly. So you can see 875 has been printed here. Now one more thing I wanted to show you. Since the amount value that I have taken is, you can see there are some values available at a decimal point. So that is the reason I have declared the value as double here. And in the output, you can see the value 875.0 instead of 875 coming out here. That is the only difference. And if you want to get the values in decimal values, you need to get using double, and accordingly the values will be printed accordingly. So if I don't use double, if I use integer here, only the digits will be printed here, the decimal values will not be printed. So for getting the decimal values printed, I have used the double here. Now again, if I want to read the same file like employee details in sync mode, the only change that I need to do is I need to create another, on the runtime. I'll just create one employee data list and pass on the file name. File name is the same employee data Excel file. The employee data class will be called here, and I don't need to give the file name here because it's the first sheet. By default, it reads the first sheet. If in case if you want to give the file sheet name as well, you can give employee details here, but make sure you pass on do read sync here, and it will print the values accordingly. So, and you can see I have also provided one for each method, which will eventually print all of the values one by one again in the available in this file here. So let me quickly run the test and show you. And I have also provided some start and the end time to get a difference between the time taken to run the particular method and print out the values from the Excel file. This is just done to make sure how much time the comparison between sync and async method. Now let me run this sync method and see how much time it takes to run the test. Now you can see 320 milliseconds were taken. Now if I quickly run the async method as well, you can see 325 seconds were taken, milliseconds were taken. So there is a difference of 5 milliseconds here. 321, and then reading it in sync, 315. So eventually there is a difference of 5 to 10 milliseconds here. And you can imagine if there is a huge Excel file that you want to read, then the differences may come up in seconds and minutes, which will be eventually more helpful for you to run the test and get the data from from the Excel sheet converted and get into as a data provider to get into your test. Now coming to the last part, where I will be using the test data from the Excel sheet and supplying to the web automation test. And the test will be run using Selenium WebDriver with Java. So let me show you the application under test first, and then we can gradually proceed from there. So we will be using this practice of softwaretesting.com registration page. It's a very good website. If you want to practice your web automation using Selenium or Playwright or any other automation tool, it's a good website to do a hands-on. So there is a customer registration page where there are multiple fields here like first name, last name, date of birth, street, postal code, city, state, country, and so on. And if I want to supply the data using an Excel sheet here, how do I do that? So there is a Excel sheet I have already created like registration test data. I'll quickly show you. Here is the sheet that has the data. So there are multiple test data. I have used two test data here, first name, last name, DOB, and so on. And all of the test data that you see here will be used from this Excel sheet only to pass on the data to the web automation test. Now, the first thing that I need to do here is I need to create one POJO. So similarly, like I did for earlier sync and async method as well. So to make sure, I will be using the uh, async method here to read the test. So ideally what I have done is I have created one POJO first and supplied at the rate data annotation of Lombok over it. And this is how the fields have been declared. Like all of the fields that you see here, first name, last name, DOB, every field has been all of the column that you see here on the Excel sheet, I have used it in the fields, and I have mapped it using Excel property annotation of EasyExcel so that I have correct mapping available. So my test there is less flakiness from the test point of view because it's of the correct mapping and correct data getting into the fields supplied. Next, I need to create one listener. So it's also very simple. Like you create one new class, update the @getter annotation of Lombok over it, and implement the read listener from the EasyExcel library. Its read listener is an Excel is an interface which consumes the registration data. Registration data is ideally a POJO of the data that you of the all the fields that you want to read, and ideally I will create one list of the registration data as a new array list, which will eventually hold all of the test data using the invoke method. So similarly, I have printed the registration data as well, just to make sure that all of the values that I want to read is printed correctly. And all of this registration data that I read one by one will be added to this registration data array list. And then eventually it will be used in the test. And finally, after all, everything is read, I'm just will be calling this do after all analyzed. So it will print the size of the data that I have read. So it will make sure it will ensure that I have read all of the test data and actually created the correct registration test with the test data that I wanted to use. After that, there is one more step that I have done here is I have created one another class registration data builder. This is made to ensure that my correct registration data passes into the test. And there is, as a best practice also, all of the code remains separate, like the page objects, the actions, the test, and the actual test data supplier. So the test data builder is a class that will supply the test data for my automation test. So have updated it here. Is the logic is the same, like the test data file is available in the SRC test resources. So this test data string actually reads the file from SRC test resources folder. And then there is another method that returns a list of registration test data, which will eventually instantiate the registration data listener class. And it will read the test data file using the POJO and then the registration listener. The sheet, there are no multiple sheets available. It's by default single sheet only. So I have not supplied the sheet name here. And then finally the do read method, and it will return the registration data. Whatever registration data is added to the list in the listener will be returned from this get registration data method here. Now, from this page point of view, since I'm using Selenium, I have created a page object for this particular page here. And you can see here all of the fields that are available in this web page are being declared here as a web element, and using the ID and the other attributes CSS selector, whatever is correctly available to locate these web elements are being used here. And accordingly, another method is created, field registration form. Now it consumes, I have used a parameter, ideally registration data, the whole parameter. I have not supplied any single field name here because I want all of the registration data to be supplied from the POJO itself. So I have declared the POJO as a parameter itself to this class, which makes the things short for me. And eventually I can, in the implementation itself, I can call the respective field names to fill in the fields. Like first name, it will registration data will get the first name, the last name will get the last name, the date of birth will get the DOB, the street, postal code, and so on. So all of this data is being supplied from this thing here. And finally the register button dot will perform a the test will perform a click on the registration button. Now one more thing, I have not completed the registration successfully here, because I don't want to pollute even though it's a demo website, I don't want it to pollute the website with the fake data and corrupt data here. Uh, with lots of data, ideally not a corrupt data, it's the correct data only, not a corrupt one. But I just wanted to keep it simple, so I have created one message here, like after registration, if I put up a weak password, it will eventually pop up a message here, it will show a message at the end. Let me show you that message as well. So let me quickly fill up the form. Postal code, city, country, let me fill it up, anything. So I have put the password as password at the rate 123. So as I click on the register button here, it shows a message. The given password has appeared in data leak. Please choose a different password. So the same message I have uh, use the web element of the same message here, password alert message. And eventually what I am doing in the test is I will fill up all of this message. First of all, when the page loads, I will perform an assertion to check I have landed on the correct page. That is the customer registration. I will verify this H3 header. And then once the data gets filled up after clicking on the register button, I will check that the message, the given password has appeared in the data leak. Please choose a different password, appears correctly or not. So once this is done, I will perform an assertion and this will end my test. And to read the data, like you can see, I have created one data provider here. It returns an iterator of registration data list values. So I have instantiated the registration data builder class here, and then I am returning the registration data as an iterator here. And finally, in the test, I have used the data provider. This is the data provider name, get registration data, and it supplies the registration data POJO here. Because I want to consume this in the field registration form. It is the same POJO that needs to be applied for setting the different values in the registration field available. So here is the first assertion where the page header is verified, the customer registration. Once this assertion is successful, then only the next step will be performed to fill the registration form. Once the registration form is filled with the data, it will perform another check for the password leak. And this is how the dead test gets completed. One more thing, there is a this particular test extends the base test. The base test is nothing but it is instantiation or initialization of the WebDriver, where it will start the Chrome driver, maximize the window, and perform an implicit wait of 30 seconds. Finally, the after class method, the teardown method will be called. After class annotation is used above this method that will exit the driver gracefully. Then this is how the test ends. So let me quickly run this test. Now the only thing that I wanted to showcase here is how easy and simple it is to use the data provider here. Now you, if you when you use a like a POJO class, you just need to call the respective data builder class here, and all the implementation happens in here only. There is a cleaner data provider method which eventually lets you know that the data is getting supplied from the registration data builder class. Now let me run the test and see the execution. Now you can see that first data, the second data got executed, and this is how the different rows were used. The data from the different rows from the Excel sheet was used, and the data were supplied, and you can see finish reading the file, total records too. Similarly, if there are, like for example, thousands of records available, you can eventually read those records as well. But I would suggest you accordingly use the methods, maybe sync or async, based upon your requirement, as it supplies both of the data. Like the easy Excel provides us and offers us the flexibility to read the data using async or sync methods. I hope you found this video useful. Do like, subscribe to my channel, and spread the word. Also, all of the data that I have shown here, all of the demonstration that I have shown here is available in this Excel demo. Maybe you can mark a star to this repository and also use it as a reference for your further purpose.